Written for the warriors who served, the fathers who taught, and the guardians who watched still. Prologue, Vietnam 1971. The jungle breathed with 1,000 hidden threats. Darkness pressed against the canopy like a living thing. 20-year-old Daniel Brennan lay motionless in the mud, his eye pressed against the scope of his M40A1 rifle. Beside him, his spotter Tommy Collins whispered wind calculations through cracked lips. 3 days they had been in position. 3 days without moving more than to shift weight from one hip to the other. 3 days watching the trail where intelligence said the target would appear. And now finally movement. Duke's finger moved to the trigger. His breathing slowed. The world contracted to the small circle of magnified vision where a North Vietnamese Army colonel walked, surrounded by 12 bodyguards. High-value target, mission critical. Take the shot. But something felt wrong. Tommy's hand suddenly gripped his shoulder. Hard. Urgent. Duke pulled his eye from the scope and turned. His spotter's face had gone white. Blood soaked through the left side of Tommy's uniform. A lot of blood. Too much blood. Ambush, Tommy whispered. They flanked us. Got me in the liver. Go, Duke. Complete the mission. The words hit like physical blows. I'm not leaving you. That's an order, Corporal. Take the shot. Through the trees behind them came voices. Vietnamese. Getting closer. Duke had maybe 90 seconds before they were overrun. The MVA colonel was still in his sight picture. Still walking. Mission parameters said eliminate the target, save the platoon waiting 3 clicks south who would walk into an ambush if the colonel reached his command post. Tommy or the mission, 1 life or 20. Duke made his choice. The rifle cracked once. The colonel fell. Duke was already moving, sliding backward through the undergrowth, leaving Tommy behind in the hide site. His spotter raised one trembling hand. Not a wave, not a plea, just acknowledgement. The last thing Duke saw before the jungle swallowed him was Tommy's face. Eyes holding his, forgiving him, understanding him, hating him. Duke ran. Behind him, automatic weapons fire erupted, then silence. The kind of silence that meant Tommy Collins, age 21 from Billings, Montana, would never see home again. The mission was a success. Duke received the Medal of Honor 6 months later. And every night since, for 53 years, he saw Tommy's face in his dreams. Chapter 1, The Pasture. Fort Sherman, Panama. Present day. Master Chief Daniel Brennan, United States Navy, 62 years old and counting, stood at attention in Colonel James Hawthorne's office and tried not to feel like a horse being put out to pasture. It's a good assignment, Duke. Hawthorne's voice carried the weight of old friendship and older wars. The colonel was 58, Army Ranger, 3 tours in Vietnam, same as Duke. They had served together in places that no longer appeared on any map. 6 months supervising the observation tower, training the next generation. Easy duty before retirement. Easy duty? The words tasted like ash. Duke's service record hung between them like a ghost. 4 decades of active service. Navy SEAL, Scout Sniper, Instructor, Advisor to 3 different administrations on counterterrorism. 243 confirmed kills across 7 different conflicts. And now Observation Tower Supervisor. Easy duty. With respect, Colonel, I can still serve in the field. The physical standards. You had a cardiac event 3 months ago, Duke. Hawthorne's tone softened. Not pity. Never pity between warriors, just truth. The doctors cleared you for light duty only. You know the rules. The cardiac event. Sanitized language for what happened when Duke's heart decided 53 years of carrying Tommy Collins's ghost was enough. He had collapsed during a training run. Woke up in a hospital bed with tubes in his arms and a cardiologist telling him his warrior days were over. Duke looked past Hawthorne to the window beyond. Fort Sherman spread across the Panamanian landscape like a promise. Young men training to become the tip of America's spear. SEAL candidates running obstacle courses. Marine reconnaissance units practicing jungle warfare. All of them depending on old men like Duke to teach them how to survive what was coming. How long do I have on the tower? 6 months, then mandatory retirement. I'm sorry, old friend. Duke nodded once. Sharp, military. Accepting an order he would never agree with. When do I start? Tomorrow. Oh, and Duke? Hawthorne pulled a file from his desk. You'll have an assistant, Sergeant Sarah Mitchell, transferred in from a Marine Scout sniper unit, good record, quiet, keeps to herself. Something in the colonel's tone made Duke pause. What aren't you telling me? Hawthorne met his eyes, old warriors reading each other across decades of shared service. Read the file, make your own assessment. But Duke, go easy on her. Some wounds don't show on the outside. Duke took the file. Sergeant Sarah Mitchell, age 29, 5'7", brown hair kept in regulation bun, eyes that looked older than they should in her ID photo. Much older. He would read it tonight. Right now, he had an observation tower to inspect. The tower rose 40 feet above the jungle canopy, metal framework painted forest green, platform at the top with 360-degree views of the training grounds. Radio equipment, spotting scopes, weather instruments, everything needed to coordinate the complex dance of modern military training. Duke climbed the ladder slowly. His heart protested each rung. The doctor said light duty meant limited physical exertion. The doctors had never climbed into a sniper hide and stayed there for 3 days. Pain was just weakness leaving the body. Or in Duke's case, time catching up to what the body owed. The platform creaked under his boots. Solid, well-maintained. He ran his hand along the railing and felt generations of watchers who had stood here before him. The observation tower at Fort Sherman had been in operation since 1952. How many eyes had scanned these same jungles? How many voices had called warnings that saved lives? How many had been relegated here because they were too broken for real duty? Duke pushed the thought away. Bitterness served no purpose. He had his orders. 6 months training the next generation. Then retirement. Then what? Sitting on a porch watching the world go by, waiting for his heart to give out completely while he drowned in memories of all the Tommy Collinses he had left behind? No, if this was his last watch, he would make it count. The file on Sarah Mitchell lay open on the small desk someone had installed on the platform. Duke read it as the sun climbed higher, burning off the morning mist that clung to the jungle below. Service record, exemplary. Scout Sniper School honor graduate. 63 confirmed kills across deployments to Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. Marksmanship scores in the top 1% of all Marine snipers. Recommended for promotion twice. Then something changed. 2 years ago, Syria. Mission classified, details redacted. But the outcome was clear enough. Sergeant Mitchell eliminated a high-value target. The building collapsed. 4 civilians killed. Investigation cleared Mitchell of any wrongdoing. Rules of engagement followed to the letter. And yet, transfer request submitted 1 week later. Reason given, seeking non-combat role to better serve long-term career development. Translation: something broke inside her and she needed out before it killed her. Duke knew that feeling. The psychological evaluation was buried 3 pages deep. He almost missed it. Subject exhibits signs of moral injury consistent with combat trauma. No indication of impaired judgment. However, subject has expressed desire to transition to roles with lower probability of civilian casualty scenarios. Recommend approval of transfer request. Subject's technical skills would be highly valuable in training and coordination positions. Moral injury. The fancy words the modern military use for what Duke's generation just called the weight. The thing that pressed down on your chest at 3 in the morning. The faces you saw every time you closed your eyes. The knowledge that you had done what needed to be done, what your orders demanded, what saved American lives. And it had cost something that could never be paid back. 4 civilians. Duke looked at Sarah Mitchell's photograph again. Those old eyes made sense now. She was 29 years old and she had already learned what Duke spent 53 years trying to forget. That being right and being at peace were not the same thing. That following orders perfectly could still leave you broken. That some shots, no matter how necessary, took pieces of your soul you never got back. Tomorrow, Sergeant Mitchell would report for duty. Duke wondered if she knew she was walking into a tower full of ghosts. Chapter 2. The Watcher. Sarah Mitchell arrived at 05:45 hours, 15 minutes before her scheduled report time. Duke approved. Punctuality was respect made visible. She stood at the base of the observation tower with a deployment bag over one shoulder and eyes that swept the area with professional assessment. Even in garrison utilities, she moved like a weapon. Balanced, aware, ready. Sergeant Mitchell reporting as ordered, Master Chief. Her salute was crisp. Her voice was steady. But her hands, Duke noticed, had the faintest tremor. Not fear, not weakness, just the mark of someone who had seen the elephant and carried the scars. At ease, Sergeant. Welcome to the tower. She dropped the salute, but her posture remained rigid. Formal, a wall between herself and the world. Thank you, Master Chief. I'm ready to begin orientation whenever you are. Have you eaten? The question seemed to surprise her. Her forehead creased slightly. Sir? Breakfast, Sergeant. Have you eaten breakfast? No, Master Chief. I reported directly from billeting. Duke gestured to a small camp stove he had set up on the platform above. Then we eat first. Can't learn on an empty stomach. And up here, rank comes second to common sense. You can call me Duke when it's just us. I'll call you Mitchell. We clear? Something shifted in her expression. Not quite a smile, not quite relief, just a fraction less of the wall. Clear, Duke. They climbed the tower together. Sarah moved efficiently, her hands finding each rung with the unconscious grace of someone who had spent time in elevated positions. Sniper hides, overwatch posts, places where patience and stillness meant survival. Duke had made coffee, strong, black, the way warriors had been drinking it since someone first figured out you could stay awake longer with beans and hot water. He poured 2 cups into metal canteens and handed her one. First rule of the tower, he said, settling into the chair that had become his over the past 16 hours. We see everything, we say what matters. We keep people alive in that order. Sarah wrapped her hands around the canteen. The steam rose between them like offering smoke. I thought observers just logged coordinates and monitored radio traffic. Bad observers do that, good ones keep warriors alive. Duke gestured to the jungle spreading in every direction. What do you see? She turned, scanning the terrain with eyes that had been trained to find threats in shadows and death in distances. 360 degrees, methodical, professional. Training Ground Alpha, southeast. 2 SEAL teams running obstacle courses. Training Ground Bravo, northwest. Marine reconnaissance doing jungle navigation exercises. Communications array north. 3 guard posts visible. Wind from the east, 8 knots. Temperature rising. Going to be a hot one. Duke nodded approval. Now tell me what you see that matters. Sarah paused. Her eyes narrowed. She scanned again, slower this time, looking past the obvious. The SEAL team run the obstacle course. One of them is favoring his left leg. Not obvious, but he's compensating. Could be an old injury flaring up. Could be new. Either way he pushes it in the field, he becomes a liability. What else? The jungle navigation exercise. The Marines are spread too far apart. If one team hits trouble, support is 90 seconds out. That's a long 90 seconds if the trouble is real. And Sarah's gaze moved to the north. The guard post at the communications array. Only 2 visible personnel. Protocol says 3. Either someone's taking an unauthorized break or they're short-staffed. If someone wanted to hit our comms, that's a vulnerability. Duke smiled, a real smile. The first one since his heart had decided to betray him 3 months ago. You see it, the difference between watching and observing, between being here and being present. He set down his coffee. Most people assigned to this tower think it's punishment duty. Babysitting children, playing soldier. They log their hours and count their days and never understand what this position really is. What is it? Duke met her eyes. Old warrior to young warrior. Across a gap of 33 years and a shared understanding that some things couldn't be taught, only learned through blood and loss. Guardian angel duty. We're the eyes that never close. The voice that calls the warning. The last chance between warriors and the grave. He paused. I read your file, Mitchell. I know why you're here. Running from something. Trying to find a role where your skills matter, but the cost isn't so high. Sarah's jaw tightened. The wall came back up. With respect, Duke, my reasons for requesting this assignment are the same as mine. The words stopped her. Duke pulled something from his pocket. Old, worn, a photograph in a plastic sleeve. He handed it to Sarah. 2 young Marines grinning at the camera. Jungle fatigues, weapons, the confidence of men who thought they were immortal. One of them was clearly Duke, 53 years younger, with a full head of dark hair and eyes that hadn't yet learned what wait felt like. The other was Tommy Collins, Vietnam, 1971. That's my spotter, best friend I ever had. 3 days into a mission, we got compromised. He took a bullet meant for me, told me to complete the mission and leave him behind. Sarah's hands tightened on the photograph. And you did. I did. Duke's voice was steady, but his eyes were somewhere far away. Somewhere in the jungle where ghosts never stopped dying. Followed my orders, took the shot, saved 20 American lives, got a medal, lost my best friend, and for 53 years I've been trying to figure out if I made the right choice. He took the photograph back, slid it into his pocket like a talisman against forgetting. I'm here because my heart gave out running from Tommy's ghost. You're here because 4 civilians died and you can't forget their faces. We're both trying to find a way to serve that doesn't add more ghosts to the collection. Sarah was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Does it work, being up here instead of out there? I don't know yet. I've only been at it one day. Duke turned back to the jungle. But I figure if I can keep people alive from up here, maybe that balances the ledger a little. Maybe Tommy would understand. Maybe your 4 civilians would see you trying to make sure no one else has to die unnecessarily. They were insurgents' families, human shields. The intelligence said the building was clear. Intelligence is written by people who aren't pulling triggers. You did your job. The fact that it haunts you means you're still human. Duke handed her a pair of high-powered binoculars. Military grade, the same type he had used as a spotter in Vietnam. Here's what I learned in 40 years. You can't bring back the dead, but you can honor them by making sure their deaths meant something, by being better, by seeing more, by saving the next ones. Sarah took the binoculars. Her hands had stopped trembling. How do I do that? Same way I'm trying to. One watch at a time, one warning called, one life saved. Duke pointed to the SEAL team below. Starting with that kid favoring his left leg. We're going to call the training supervisor and make sure someone checks him out before he breaks something that can't be fixed. For the first time since she arrived, Sarah Mitchell almost smiled. Snipers kill. What do watchers do? Duke picked up the radio. Watchers save. Chapter 3. Old Guard, New Blood. Lieutenant Jake Foster was not impressed. The SEAL team leader stood in the briefing room with his arms crossed and an expression that suggested observer support ranked somewhere between paperwork and dental surgery on his list of favorite things. 34 years old, career officer, 3 combat deployments. Everything by the book, and the book said modern warfare had evolved past needing someone to watch from a tower. With respect, Colonel, Jake said, his tone suggesting limited respect. We have satellite imagery, we have drones, we have real-time tactical overlays on our helmet displays. What exactly does an observation tower add that technology doesn't provide better? Colonel Hawthorne looked to Duke. This was Duke's show now. Duke stood slowly. His heart protested the movement, but he ignored it. The cardiologist's warning from 3 months ago echoed in his mind. Mild cardiac event, restricted duty, no strenuous activity. Duke had signed the papers and promptly filed them in the part of his brain labeled things warriors ignore until they can't anymore. Pain was temporary. Teaching moments were forever. Technology gets jammed, Lieutenant. Satellites get blinded, drones get hacked, but a trained eye on high ground, that's been saving lives since Joshua fought at Jericho. He walked to the terrain map mounted on the wall. Each step sent a dull ache through his chest. Your exercise tomorrow covers 15 square kilometers of jungle, dense canopy, limited sight lines, multiple teams operating independently. What happens when your fancy technology tells you everything is clear and you walk into an ambush anyway? Jake's jaw tightened. We rely on our training and our people. Good answer. And what happens when your people are pinned down and can't get a message out because the enemy hit your communications first? We have backup protocols. Also good. Now tell me this, Lieutenant. When was the last time you had 360-degree visibility of your entire operational area in real time? Silence. Duke tapped the map. The motion sent another twinge through his chest, sharper this time. He breathed through it. The observation tower sits here, 40 feet elevation, clear sight lines to every training ground, direct communication with base operations, medical, and security. When your backup protocols fail and your technology goes dark, we're the voice that calls in the cavalry. If we need you, you will. The certainty in Duke's voice made Jake pause. This wasn't bravado. This wasn't an old man defending his relevance. This was a warrior who had seen enough battlefields to know the difference between theory and survival. Tomorrow's exercise is complex, Colonel Hawthorne said, diffusing the tension. Multiple SEAL teams, Marine reconnaissance, simulated enemy force, medical evacuation scenarios, limited communications protocols. The observation tower will provide coordination oversight. Master Chief Brennan and Sergeant Mitchell have full authority to interface with all training elements. Jake nodded, one sharp dip of the head. Understood, sir. One more thing, Lieutenant. Duke's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of 4 decades. I know you think observer support is obsolete. I know you believe technology and training are enough. You're wrong, but I respect that you don't know you're wrong yet. So how about this? We run tomorrow's exercise. If the tower adds nothing of value, I'll recommend to the colonel that we discontinue observer coordination for all future SEAL training. Deal? Jake's eyes narrowed. This was a test. Old guard versus new blood, tradition versus technology. And if the tower does add value, then you stop treating support personnel like they're just there to hand out band-aids and to take notes. You integrate us into your planning. You listen when we call warnings. You remember that the warrior who keeps you alive doesn't have to be the one holding the rifle. Colonel Hawthorne looked between them. Vietnam vet reading the currents of a confrontation that had played out in every military since the First Army formed. Gentlemen, we're on the same team. Yes, sir, they said in unison. But Jake's handshake, when Duke offered it, was firm, challenging. The grip of a man who thought he had nothing to learn from old men in towers. Duke would teach him different, if his heart held out long enough. Chapter 4, When Angels Fall. The SEAL team assembled at thorough 4:30 hours under a sky still black with night. 12 men, the best trained warriors America could produce, each one a volunteer who had survived selection that broke 90% of candidates. They moved with the casual confidence of apex predators. Weapons, gear, night vision, communications, everything calibrated to perfection. Seaman Ryan Torres was the youngest at 24. Eager, athletic, the kind of young warrior who thought courage meant charging forward and skill meant never backing down. He stood near the front of the formation, ready to prove himself. Duke watched from the tower platform 40 feet above. Beside him, Sarah Mitchell scanned the pre-dawn darkness with night vision binoculars. Duke's chest felt tight. Wrong. He pressed his hand against it briefly. Just fatigue. Just the climb up the ladder. Nothing more. The young one, Sarah said quietly. Torres, he's going to be trouble. Why? Watch his body language. He's not listening to the briefing. He's looking at the jungle like it owes him something. That's not focus. That's ego. Duke trained his own binoculars on Ryan Torres. Sarah was right. The kid's stance was all wrong. Too aggressive, too forward. The posture of someone playing soldier instead of being one. Flag him for watch priority, Duke said. Ego gets people killed. Below, Lieutenant Jake Foster finished his briefing. Exercise parameters are simple. Infiltrate to the objective. Secure the package. Extract via designated landing zone. Enemy force will attempt to interdict. Medical scenarios are randomized and realistic. Rules of engagement are standard. Questions? None. Then let's move out. And remember, this is training, but the jungle doesn't care. Stay sharp. The SEAL teams melted into the darkness like ghosts. Duke keyed his radio to the command frequency. Tower to TOC. SEAL Team Alpha is mobile. We have eyes on. Copy, Tower. Maintain observation and provide coordination as needed. Sarah pulled up the tactical display on her tablet. GPS markers showed each team member moving through the jungle. Technology working perfectly. For now, Duke settled into the rhythm he had learned across a lifetime of watching. Scan, assess, breathe, scan again. But his breathing felt labored, shallow. The tightness in his chest was growing. He reached for his water bottle, took a sip, breathed deeper. The pain flared white-hot. Duke gasped, grabbed the railing. The night vision binoculars fell from his hands. Sarah spun toward him. Duke, I'm fine, just... The words died as another wave of pain crashed through him. His left arm went numb. The world tilted. Sarah. She caught him as his knees buckled, lowered him to the platform deck. Her training took over instantly. Check airway, check breathing, check circulation. You're having a heart attack. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed fear. Don't move. I'm calling medical right now. The exercise? Duke's voice was weak, fading. Torres. Watching. Forget the exercise, you're dying. Not yet. Duke grabbed her wrist with his right hand. The grip was weak, but desperate. 2 jobs now, Mitchell. Save me, and save them. Can you do both? Sarah looked down at the man who had taught her that watchers save. The man who had shown her that redemption came through protecting others. The man who was dying in her arms, while 12 SEAL warriors moved through a jungle that didn't care about anyone's heart attack. She had failed to save 4 civilians in Syria. She would not fail here. I can do both. Sarah grabbed her radio with her left hand while her right hand moved to Duke's chest. Started compressions, 30 pumps, 2 rescue breaths. Repeat. Her voice when she keyed the radio was iron steady. Medical, this is Tower. Priority 1 cardiac emergency. Master Chief Brennan unresponsive, no pulse. CPR in progress. Need immediate medevac to Tower location. Tower, medical copies. Helicopter spinning up now. ETA 8 minutes. 8 minutes. Duke might not have 8 minutes. Sarah kept pumping, kept breathing for him. And while her hands worked to restart a heart that had carried too much weight for too many years, her mind was counting seconds until disaster. 40 minutes into the exercise, movement on her tablet caught her eye. Torres, braking formation, northwest quadrant. No, 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 not now. Sarah's hands never stopped the compressions. 30 pumps, 2 breaths. But her eyes tracked the GPS marker moving away from the team, moving toward the ravine system marked unstable terrain. She grabbed her radio again, still pumping Duke's chest. Tower to Alpha lead. Compression, compression, compression. Be advised. Compression, compression. 1 element breaking northwest. Compression, compression. Breathe, breathe. Torres attempting. Compression. Shortcut through. Compression. Unstable ravine. Breathe, breathe. Jake Foster's voice came back. Copy Tower. Alpha lead to Torres. Return to formation immediately. The GPS marker kept moving. Sarah's world narrowed to impossible choices. Duke's chest under her hands. Blood flowing. Heart trying to restart. Torres on the screen, moving toward death. Both men dying. Both men needing her. Both men whose survival depended on what she did in the next 60 seconds. She could stop Seeper, coordinate Torres's rescue properly, let Duke die, or she could keep Duke alive. Let Torres fall, watch another person die because she chose wrong. Syria all over again. 4 civilians dead because intelligence was wrong, because she trusted the mission over her instincts. Not this time. Sarah Mitchell, you saved them both. Duke's voice was barely a whisper. Blood flecked his lips. His eyes were open but unfocused. That's an order. Sarah's hands moved faster, harder. CPR with fury and determination and the absolute refusal to lose anyone else. I hear you, Master Chief. She grabbed the radio again, switched frequencies while maintaining compressions with one hand. The technique was nearly impossible. She did it anyway. Tower to medical, update, 2nd casualty developing. Seaman Torres, imminent fall from height, compound fracture likely. Need 2 helicopters. Repeat, 2 medevacs required. Tower Medical, we only have 1 helicopter immediately available. Then get another one in the air now. I have a cardiac arrest and an imminent trauma. Both are priority 1. Move. The authority in her voice left no room for argument. Medical copies. 2nd bird launching in 3 minutes. Sarah switched back to Torres's frequency. Still pumping. Still breathing for Duke. Torres. Compression, compression, compression. This is compression. Tower. Compression. Stop now. Static. Then Ryan's cocky voice. Tower, I've got a clean route. I can see the ground. The ground. Compression. Will collapse. Compression. You have. Breathe, breathe. 5 seconds. Compression, compression. To stop or you die. Her certainty cut through his confidence. How do you... The ground collapsed. Ryan Torres fell 15 feet onto rocks that shattered his left leg like porcelain. His scream cut through the jungle night. On Sarah's tablet, his vitals spiked into the danger zone. Below her hands, Duke's heart stuttered. Tried to beat. Failed. Stopped. No. Sarah slammed her fist down on Duke's chest, hard. Harder than CPR protocols recommended. The kind of desperate measure that either restarts a heart or breaks ribs. You don't get to die on me, old man. Not today. Not today. She hit him again. Duke's body jerked. His back arched. And then, impossibly, miraculously, his heart kicked. Once. Twice. A rhythm. Weak. Irregular. But beating. Sarah's hands went back to compressions. Gentler now. Supporting. Encouraging. That's it. Stay with me, Duke. Help is coming. Jake Foster's voice exploded over the radio. Torres is down. Medical emergency. Compound fracture. Heavy bleeding. Sarah grabbed the radio. Her voice was command incarnate. Alpha lead. This is Tower. I have your man on scope. Ground rescue is impossible. Terrain is unstable. You need to establish a helicopter LZ 800 meters northeast of your position. Grid 378-652-895. Move now. Tower, I need to get to my man. Negative, Alpha Lead. You go in there, ground collapses. I'm coordinating 3 evacuations instead of 2. Trust me, I've got him. A pause, then tight with controlled panic. Copy, Tower, moving to LZ now. Sarah switched frequencies again, her left hand still maintaining compression rhythm on Duke's chest, her right hand flying across radio controls and tablet screens like a concert pianist. Torres, this is Tower. I know you're in pain. I know you're scared, but help is 90 seconds out. I need you to stay calm. A sob, then words tight with agony. My leg, I can see bone. I know. Don't touch it. Don't move. Just breathe. Can you do that for me? I'll try. Good man. The first helicopter appeared on the horizon. Sarah talked it in while keeping Duke's heart pumping with one hand. Medical Flight 1, this is Tower. Your LZ is the tower platform. Approach from the south. Wind is calm. Patient is male, 62, cardiac arrest, CPR in progress for 6 minutes. You'll need to hoist him from the platform. Tower Medical Flight 1, we don't have hoist capability. Then land on the training ground below and send your medics up the ladder. Every second counts. The helicopter settled onto the grass 40 feet below. 2 Navy corpsmen sprinted for the tower ladder. Sarah kept pumping Duke's chest until she heard boots on metal rungs. Only then did she hand off compressions to the first corpsman who reached the platform. 6 minutes CPR. Got a pulse 2 minutes ago, weak and irregular. No medications administered. The corpsman took over. Sarah grabbed her tablet and radio and moved to the opposite side of the platform. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline and fear catching up. No time for that. Medical Flight 2, this is Tower. Your patient is 800 meters south of my position, bottom of a ravine, compound fracture left leg, heavy bleeding, going into shock. SEAL team is establishing LZ at grid 378-652-895. Do you have visual? Tower Medical 2 has visual on SEAL team portable lights. Beginning approach now. Sarah pulled up the camera view from the SEAL team's helmet cameras. Saw Ryan Torres lying on rocks in a pool of blood. Saw Jake Foster applying a tourniquet with shaking hands. Saw young warriors learning that training sometimes became terrifyingly real. She talked the second helicopter in with the same precision she had used for the first. Guided them through trees and terrain in the chaos of a nighttime medevac in hostile conditions that weren't supposed to be hostile. Below her, the first helicopter lifted off with Duke strapped to a stretcher. She watched it disappear toward the base hospital. Watched the man who had taught her to save lives fighting for his own. The second helicopter touched down at the SEAL team's position. Medics swarmed Ryan Torres. Within 2 minutes, he was loaded and airborne. Sarah stood alone on the observation tower platform as dawn broke over the jungle. 2 men, 2 emergencies, both saved. She had done it. She had saved them both. Her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the platform deck where Duke's blood still stained the metal. And Sarah Mitchell, Marine Scout sniper, guardian angel, watcher who saved, put her face in her hands and wept. Chapter 5. What Watchers Earn. Jake Foster climbed the tower ladder 90 minutes later. He found Sarah sitting with her back against the railing, eyes closed, face tracked with tears she had finally let fall. Duke's blood was still on her hands, literally. She hadn't cleaned it off. Jake sat down beside her without speaking. They watched the sun climb higher together. Finally, Jake broke the silence. I just came from the hospital. Duke's stable. They got his heart back to normal rhythm. Doctor says if you hadn't started CPR immediately, he'd be dead. If you hadn't kept it going for 6 minutes straight, brain damage. But you did, so he's going to be fine. Sarah nodded but didn't speak. Torres is in surgery, compound fracture like you called, but they saved the leg, full recovery expected. Doctor says if the medevac had been delayed even 5 minutes, he might have bled out. Jake paused. You saved 2 lives tonight, Mitchell, while performing CPR on one of them. I've been a SEAL for 12 years. I've seen things that would break most people, but what you did tonight, I've never seen anything like it. I was just doing my job. No. Jake's voice was firm, final. Your job was observation and coordination. What you did was impossible. You ran 2 separate medical emergencies simultaneously while manually keeping a man's heart beating. That's not training. That's not protocol. That's He struggled for words. That's heroism. Sarah finally opened her eyes. I watched 4 civilians die in Syria because I trusted intelligence over instinct. I pulled a trigger and a building fell, and people who weren't supposed to be there died anyway. I carry their faces every day. She looked at her hands, at Duke's blood. Tonight I got a chance to save instead of kill, to see what mattered and act fast enough to stop death instead of causing it. That's not heroism, Lieutenant, that's redemption. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Duke told me about Tommy Collins, his spotter in Vietnam, the choice he made that's haunted him for 53 years. Jake met her eyes. He said you were carrying the same weight, different war, different faces, same burden. He said the tower was where people like you and him learned to put the weight down by making sure no one else had to pick it up. He said that? About an hour before the exercise. He said, and I quote, "That girl has seen the elephant and it nearly broke her. But broken people make the best guardians because they know exactly what they're guarding against." Fresh tears tracked down Sarah's face. I thought he didn't trust me. That first day, he was so cold, so distant. He wasn't distant. He was recognizing himself in you, and he was trying to teach you what took him 50 years to learn. Jake stood, offered his hand. Come on, the old man wants to see you. He's awake and demanding to know if his tower is still standing. Apparently, he thinks the place will fall apart without him for a few hours. Sarah took Jake's hand, let him pull her to her feet. Together, they climbed down from the observation tower. 40 feet that had become sacred ground, a place where watchers stood, where angels fell and rose again, where 2 broken warriors had learned to save lives instead of taking them. The hospital was quiet in the pre-dawn hours. Duke was in intensive care but stable. The heart monitor beeped steady, strong. He looked smaller in the hospital bed, older, but his eyes were alert when Sarah entered. You're supposed to be on the tower, he said. His voice was weak, but the command was still there. The tower's covered. Someone needed to check on the stubborn old man who tried to die on my watch. Duke smiled, faint, tired. Tried being the operative word. Apparently my watcher wouldn't let me go. Sarah pulled a chair to his bedside, sat, finally wiped Duke's blood off her hands with a hospital towel. You ordered me to save you both. I don't disobey direct orders. I also told you to let me die if it meant saving Torres. You said save us both, so I did. Duke's eyes glistened. Tommy would have liked you. Tommy? My spotter. The one I left behind. The ghost I've been carrying for 53 years. Duke's hand found hers, weak, trembling, but warm, alive. When I was lying on that platform, my heart stopped. I saw him, clear as day, standing right there. And you know what he said? Sarah shook her head. He said, "This one's a keeper, Duke. She's got your back the way I had it. Don't you dare die on her." Duke's grip tightened slightly. So I didn't. Figured if Tommy was giving me permission to stick around, I better take it. They sat in silence. 2 warriors who had learned that the hardest battles weren't always fought with weapons. Sometimes the fight was against ghosts, against guilt, against the weight that pressed down until you couldn't breathe. Sometimes the fight was choosing to live when dying felt easier. The tower needs you, Sarah said finally. The tower needs you, Mitchell. I'm 62 with a bad heart. You're 29 with a gift for seeing what matters and acting fast enough to stop death before it happens. The tower belongs to you now. I can't do this without you. You just did. Saved 2 lives while performing CPR. If that's not proof you can do this, nothing is. Sarah looked at the heart monitor, at the steady beep that said Duke Brennan would live to watch another day. When you get out of here, we're both going back to that tower, together. You're not getting rid of me that easy, old man. Duke smiled, a real smile, the kind that erased years and showed the young Marine who had once believed he could save everyone until Tommy Collins taught him different. Deal, but you're making the coffee from now on. Mine's terrible. Yours is Navy coffee. Of course it's terrible. They sat together as dawn turned to morning. As the hospital came alive with shift changes and breakfast carts and the 1,000 small rhythms of healing. Outside, Fort Sherman prepared for another day of training. Young warriors learning to become weapons. Old warriors teaching them how to survive what was coming. And 40 feet above it all, the observation tower stood empty, waiting for its watchers to return. Waiting for the next time someone needed saving. Waiting for proof that redemption came not through perfection, but through the choice to keep serving despite every reason to quit. Jake Foster stood at the base of the tower and looked up. The platform where Sarah had saved 2 lives while her hands kept a dying man's heart beating. The metal framework that had become more than a structure. It had become a symbol of duty, of sacrifice, of the truth that the best warriors weren't always the ones holding rifles. Sometimes they were the ones watching from high ground, seeing what mattered, calling warnings that saved lives. Jake pulled out his phone, composed a message to SEAL Team Alpha. New protocol effective immediately. All future training operations will integrate full coordination with observation tower personnel. Tower authority is absolute on medical and safety calls. We train to fight. They watch to keep us alive. Respect the watchers. They've earned it. He hit send. Then he climbed the ladder to the platform, sat in Duke's chair, looked out over the jungle canopy as the sun climbed higher. From up here, you could see everything. From up here, you understood why watchers mattered. From up here, Lieutenant Jake Foster finally understood what Master Chief Duke Brennan had been trying to teach him all along. Some towers were built to see the enemy. Others were built to see the warrior within. And the very best ones taught broken people that saving lives was how you honored the ones you couldn't save. Jake picked up the radio. Tower to TOC, this is Lieutenant Foster. Observation post is manned and operational. We have eyes on. We're ready to watch. Below, Fort Sherman prepared for another day. Above, the watchers stood ready. And somewhere in a hospital bed, Duke Brennan closed his eyes and slept without ghosts for the first time in 53 years. Because Tommy Collins was finally at peace. Because his tower had found a new guardian. Because the watch would never end as long as people like Sarah Mitchell chose to climb 40 feet and see what mattered and save the ones who needed saving. Snipers killed, watchers saved, and on this day, in this place, the watchers had won. The tower stands, the watchers prepare, and some sacrifices echo across generations. Chapter 6, Healing and Shadows. 3 weeks after his heart stopped beating on the observation tower platform, Master Chief Daniel Brennan sat in a hospital bed and argued with his cardiologist. The tests show significant improvement, Dr. Helen Chen said, reviewing charts on her tablet. Your heart rhythm is stable, blood pressure is manageable. But Master Chief, you had a major cardiac event. Full recovery takes months, maybe years. You need rest. Duke's jaw tightened. I've been resting for 3 weeks. I'm going back to duty. Light duty, very light, no climbing, no physical exertion, and absolutely no stress. I supervise an observation tower. I sit in a chair and watch people train. Doesn't get much lighter than that. Dr. Chen looked at him the way doctors looked at stubborn old warriors who thought willpower could override biology. She had treated enough military personnel to recognize the breed. Men who measured their worth by what they could still do for others. Men who would rather die serving than live idle. Master Chief, I can't stop you from returning to duty, but I can tell you that another cardiac event will likely be fatal. Your heart isn't young anymore. It's been through trauma. You need to respect its limits. I respect my limits, Doctor. I also respect my responsibilities. They both knew he was lying. Warriors like Duke Brennan didn't have limits. They had missions, and missions didn't end just because bodies got tired or hearts got weak. Dr. Chen signed the discharge papers. Light duty only, weekly checkups. And if you feel any chest pain, any shortness of breath, any irregularity at all, you stop immediately and call medical. Clear? Clear, Doctor. She handed him the papers and a bottle of medication that promised to keep his heart beating in exchange for making him feel old and slow and diminished. Duke took the pills. He would take them every day like ordered. But he wouldn't let them define him. Sarah Mitchell was waiting outside the hospital when Duke emerged into Panama's humid morning air. She stood beside a Jeep in clean utilities, her hair pulled back in regulation bun, her face breaking into genuine relief when she saw him walking on his own power. Welcome back, old man. I'm not old. I'm experienced. Duke climbed into the passenger seat. His chest protested. He ignored it. How's my tower? Still standing. I've been covering your shifts. And? Sarah started the Jeep and pulled onto the road leading back to Fort Sherman. The jungle pressed close on both sides, green and alive and indifferent to human drama. And I've logged 42 training exercises, coordinated 6 medical evacuations, all minor, and had 16 different SEAL team leaders specifically request observer coordination for their operations. She glanced at him. Turns out saving 2 lives while doing CPR makes people take you seriously. You were always serious, Mitchell. They just needed proof to see it. Ryan Torres came by the tower last week. His leg is healing ahead of schedule. He wanted to thank me again, and he wanted me to thank you for not letting him die from his own stupidity. Duke smiled faintly. Kid learn his lesson? He's a different operator now. Listens to briefings, follows orders, checks his ego at the armory. Jake Foster says he might actually make it as a SEAL now. Good. Sometimes the best warriors are the ones who nearly die learning how to be warriors. They drove in comfortable silence for a while. The kind of quiet that existed between people who had seen each other at their worst and still chose to stand together. Finally, Sarah spoke. The nightmare stopped. Duke turned to look at her. Syria? Yeah, for the first time in 2 years, I sleep through the night without seeing their faces. The 4 civilians, the building collapse, all of it. She kept her eyes on the road. I think it's because I finally saved someone when it mattered. Saved you, saved Torres, proved to myself that I could see what mattered and act fast enough to stop death instead of cause it. That's not why the nightmare stopped. No, they stopped because you forgave yourself. Duke watched the jungle blur past. I carried Tommy Collins for 53 years because I couldn't forgive the choice I made. Couldn't accept that sometimes you have to let one person go to save 20. Couldn't understand that being haunted meant I was human. Not that I was wrong. He paused. When I was dying on that platform and you were trying to save both me and Torres, I saw Tommy. Clear as day. And he told me something I needed to hear. What? That I did right by him. That he forgave me. That it was time to let the weight go and live whatever time I had left. Duke's voice was soft. You've been carrying 4 civilians who died because intelligence was wrong and war is chaos. That weight isn't yours to carry, Mitchell. They're not haunting you because you failed them. They're haunting you because you're the kind of person who cares. And that's what makes you a guardian instead of a weapon. Sarah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. So what do I do now? Same thing I'm doing. Honor them by making sure no one else has to die unnecessarily. Watch, warn, see. That's the mission now. Fort Sherman appeared ahead. The observation tower rose 40 feet above the tree line like a sentinel. Home. Purpose. The place where broken warriors learn to heal by protecting others. There's something else you should know, Sarah said as they approached the main gate. We've had unusual activity around the base perimeter for the past week. Nothing concrete, just surveillance patterns that don't match normal local traffic. Colonel Hawthorne has intelligence looking into it, but so far, nothing actionable. Duke's warrior instincts stirred. What kind of patterns? Vehicles passing the same checkpoints at regular intervals. Local workers who don't match employment records. Small drones spotted near the communications array. Like I said, nothing concrete. But my gut says something's wrong. Your gut kept you alive as a scout sniper for 5 years. Trust it. They pulled through the gate. Security waved them past with nods of respect. 3 weeks ago, Duke had been just another old-timer counting days to retirement. Now he was the Master Chief who nearly died and came back. Sarah was the sergeant who saved 2 lives while her hands kept a heart beating. Legends, whether they wanted to be or not. Colonel Hawthorne was waiting at the base operations building, 58 years old. Army Ranger, Vietnam veteran, and Duke's oldest living friend. His face was grim. Welcome back, Duke. Glad to see you vertical. Glad to be vertical, Colonel. Mitchell says we have unusual activity around the perimeter. Come inside, both of you. There are things you need to hear. They followed Hawthorne into a secure briefing room. On the wall, satellite imagery showed Fort Sherman and the surrounding marino. Red circles marked locations where unusual activity had been detected. Jake Foster was already there. The SEAL team leader stood at attention when they entered. Master Chief, good to have you back. Good to be back, Lieutenant. Hawthorne activated a classified briefing file. Images appeared on the screen. Faces, dossiers, intelligence reports. 6 months ago, we captured a mercenary during a probing attack on our eastern perimeter. Low-level operative. We thought it was opportunistic. Turns out we were wrong. Hawthorne pulled up a photograph. Viktor Volkov, ex-Spetsnaz, served in Chechnya, Syria, Ukraine. Dishonorably discharged in 2019 for unauthorized engagement of civilians. Since then, he's been freelancing for whoever pays enough. The photograph showed a hard man in his mid-40s, Slavic features, cold eyes, the look of someone who had killed often and cared little. Who's paying him now? Duke asked. Sinaloa cartel. They want intelligence on our counter-narcotics operations, training methods, response times, defensive capabilities. Hawthorne pulled up more images. The mercenary we captured 6 months ago worked for Volkov. His mission was to test our perimeter security and response protocols. He succeeded, got captured eventually, but only after learning what he needed to learn. Sarah leaned forward, studying the imagery. The surveillance activity we've been seeing, it's preparation for another attack. That's our assessment, and Volkov is planning something bigger. We don't know when, we don't know how many personnel, but intelligence intercepts suggest it's imminent. Days, not weeks. Jake spoke up. Sir, recommend we increase security posture immediately. Reinforce perimeter defenses. Cancel all training exercises until the threat passes. Negative, Lieutenant. If we change our operational patterns, Volkov knows we're on to him. He either accelerates his timeline or disappears and tries again later when we're less prepared. Hawthorne looked at Duke. We're going to continue normal operations, but I need the observation tower on high alert. If an attack comes, you'll be our early warning system. Duke felt his heart beating. Steady, strong enough. Not young, but not finished either. We'll be ready, Colonel. There's one more thing. Hawthorne pulled up an operations map. We have a major combined training exercise scheduled in 72 hours. 3 SEAL teams, 2 Marine reconnaissance units, nearly 200 personnel in the field. If Volkov is planning to attack, that exercise provides maximum chaos for him to exploit. It also provides maximum American combat power in one place, Sarah said. If he hits us during the exercise, he's not just testing defenses anymore, he's starting a war, which is why we're not canceling it, we're turning it into a trap. Hawthorne's smile was cold. Volkov wants to test our capabilities? We'll show him exactly what American warriors can do when they're expecting trouble. Duke understood immediately. The old warrior's wisdom that said sometimes the best defense was making the enemy think they had the advantage until it was too late. You want to use the exercise as bait. I want to use it as an opportunity. Every operator in that field will be briefed on the potential threat. Every weapon will be loaded with live ammunition. Every communication protocol will be real-world instead of simulated. Volkov thinks he's attacking a training base. He'll be attacking a fully mobilized combat force. Jake's expression was fierce. When do we brief the teams? 24 hours before exercise start. Operational security is paramount. If word leaks, Volkov changes plans. Hawthorne turned to Duke and Sarah. Your role is critical. The observation tower is 40 feet up with 360-degree visibility. If Volkov's force approaches, you'll see them first. You'll be the voice that gives our people the warning they need to respond. Sarah met Duke's eyes. Unspoken communication between warriors who had learned to trust each other completely. We'll be ready, she said. I know you will. Dismissed. They filed out of this briefing room into Panama's afternoon heat. Jake walked with them toward the observation tower. Master Chief, a word? Duke nodded. Sarah continued toward the tower alone, giving them privacy. Something on your mind, Lieutenant? Jake was quiet for a moment, choosing words carefully. 3 weeks ago, I thought observer support was obsolete. I thought technology and training were enough. Then Torres nearly died, and you coordinated his rescue while having a heart attack. Then Sergeant Mitchell saved both of you while performing CPR. He paused. I've been in combat. I've seen heroism. But what you two did that night changed how I understand service. We just did our job. No, Master Chief. You did something impossible and made it look necessary. You taught me that the best warriors aren't always the ones holding rifles. Sometimes they're the ones watching from high ground, seeing what matters, calling warnings that save lives. Jake met his eyes. If Volkov comes, if this turns into a real fight, I want you to know that every SEAL on this base will follow your coordination without question. You have earned that trust. Duke extended his hand. Jake shook it. Firm, respectful. The grip of warriors who understood that rank mattered less than competence, and courage mattered less than wisdom. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Lieutenant. And if it does, then we'll do what watchers do. We'll see everything. We'll save everyone we can, and we'll make sure Volkov learns that attacking American warriors was the last mistake he ever made. Chapter 7. The Calm. 72 hours felt like 72 years. Duke and Sarah maintained normal watch schedules, logged training exercises, coordinated helicopter operations, acted like nothing had changed while every instinct screamed that danger was coming. The observation tower became their fortress. Duke insisted on staying overnight, sleeping in a camp bed someone had hauled up the ladder. Sarah objected. He overruled her. 2 sets of eyes were better than one. And if his heart decided to quit again, at least he'd die doing something that mattered. They watched the jungle, scanned approaches, monitored communication traffic, and waited. On the second night, Sarah made coffee on the small camp stove while Duke studied satellite imagery on a tablet. The jungle spread dark and vast in every direction. Somewhere out there, Viktor Volkov was planning his attack, watching, preparing, counting down. "Tell me about your first firefight," Sarah said suddenly. Duke looked up from the tablet. "Why?" "Because tomorrow might be mine. Real bullets, real enemies. Not training, not an accident. War." She handed him coffee. "I've taken shots, eliminated targets, but I've never been in a sustained engagement where people were actively trying to kill me. You have. I need to know what it feels like so I'm not surprised when it happens." Duke set down the tablet, sipped coffee, remembered. "My first firefight was Vietnam, 1968. 2 weeks in country. I thought I was ready. I'd trained for months, qualified expert on every weapon, studied tactics, understood the mission." He paused. "None of it prepared me for what it actually felt like when bullets started flying." "What did it feel like?" "Chaos. Complete sensory overload. The noise was the worst part. Automatic weapons sound different in combat than on a range. Louder, angrier, like the world is being torn apart. And the smell, gunpowder, blood, fierce sweat. It gets in your nose and stays there forever." Sarah was quiet, listening with the focus of a student learning lessons that might keep her alive. "I froze," Duke continued, "for maybe 3 seconds. Felt like 3 hours. Just stood there while bullets cracked past and Marines were yelling and my training was screaming at me to move, shoot, do something. Then Tommy Collins grabbed me, threw me behind cover, and said the words that saved my life." "What did he say?" "He said, 'Don't think, Duke, just do. Your training will take over if you let it. Trust your hands, trust your eyes, trust me.'" "Did you?" "I did, and he was right. Once I stopped trying to process everything and just let my training work, it all clicked. Muscle memory, pattern recognition. The thousands of hours we'd spent on ranges and in training suddenly made sense. I stopped being a scared kid and started being a Marine." Duke met her eyes across the small platform. "Tomorrow, if Volkov comes, you're going to feel that same fear, that same chaos, that same moment where everything wants you to freeze. Don't think, just do. Your training will take over. Trust your hands. Trust your eyes." "Trust you?" "Trust me." Sarah nodded slowly. "In Syria, when I shot that target and the building collapsed and those 4 civilians died, I froze. For days afterward, couldn't shoot, couldn't function. Just replayed it over and over, wondering what I missed, what I could have done different. The investigation cleared me, but I couldn't clear myself. And then? And then I requested transfer to observer duties because I thought if I couldn't see the targets, couldn't pull triggers, I couldn't hurt anyone else." She looked at her hands. "But 3 weeks ago when you were dying and Torres was bleeding, I had to act, had to choose, had to trust that even though I'd failed before, I could succeed this time. And I did." "You didn't fail in Syria, Mitchell. Intelligence failed. The enemy failed by using human shields. War failed by being war. But you followed your training, took the shot you were ordered to take. Sometimes the right choice still produces wrong outcomes. That's not failure. That's the cost of service." Sarah was quiet for the long moment. "If I have to shoot tomorrow, I don't know if I can." "Then don't shoot." She looked up, surprised. "What?" "You're not a sniper anymore. You're an observer, a coordinator, a guardian angel watching from high ground. Your job isn't to pull triggers. It's to see threats and call warnings so other people can respond." Duke leaned forward. "But Mitchell, if the moment comes where shooting is the only thing standing between good people dying and bad people failing, you'll know. Your training will tell you. Your instincts will scream it. And when that moment comes, you won't freeze. You'll do what needs doing." "How can you be sure?" "Because you already proved it. When you saved me and Torres. When you had to choose between 2 impossible things and chose both. That's who you are now. Not the sniper who failed in Syria, the guardian who succeeds when it matters most." The radio crackled with routine traffic, training exercises winding down for the night, perimeter patrols checking in. The normal rhythms of a military base preparing for sleep. Normal. But Duke's instincts said different. He stood and walked to the railing, scanned the jungle with night vision binoculars, saw nothing but darkness and trees and shadows that might have been animals or might have been men who knew how to move unseen. It's tomorrow, he said quietly. How do you know? Because if I were Volkov, I'd hit during the major exercise when maximum confusion provides maximum advantage. And the exercise starts at 0400, which means he'll position his forces tonight, move under darkness, be in place before dawn. Duke lowered the binoculars. Get some sleep, Mitchell. It's going to be a long day. What about you? I'll take first watch. Someone needs to keep eyes on while you rest. Duke, your heart is fine, better than fine. I'm right where I'm supposed to be, doing what I was born to do. He smiled. Besides, old men don't need much sleep. We're too busy remembering when we were young. Sarah hesitated. Then she settled into the camp bed and pulled a thin blanket over herself. Within minutes, exhaustion pulled her under. Duke watched over her like he'd once watched over young Marines in Vietnam. Like fathers watched over daughters. Like old warriors watched over the next generation with the fierce protective instinct that said some things mattered more than your own survival. The jungle breathed. Somewhere in the darkness, Viktor Volkov moved his pieces into position. And on the observation tower, Master Chief Daniel Brennan stood watch with a heart that had stopped once and refused to stop again until his mission was complete. Chapter 8, 0 hour. The attack came at 0347 hours, 13 minutes before the scheduled exercise start. Sarah woke to Duke's hand on her shoulder and his voice saying her name with the kind of quiet urgency that meant everything had just gone sideways. Mitchell, we have contact. She was on her feet instantly, training overriding sleep. Duke handed her night vision binoculars and pointed northwest. Multiple elements. Moving in coordinated assault formation. I count approximately 80 personnel. Professional spacing, military movement patterns. This is Volkov. Sarah's eyes found them through the night vision. Green silhouettes moving like wolves through the jungle. Equipped, armed, moving with the confidence of men who thought they were attacking a sleeping base. They were wrong. Tower to TOC. Duke's voice was ice calm. We have hostile force approaching perimeter. Approximately 80 personnel. Grid coordinates 376453. Moving toward primary training grounds and communications array. This is not a drill. Repeat. This is not a drill. Colonel Hawthorne's voice came back instantly. Alert. Ready. TOS copies hostile contact. All units implement defense protocol, Charlie. SEAL teams and Marine reconnaissance are authorized weapons-free. I repeat, weapons-free. Engage and neutralize hostile forces. The base transformed in seconds. What looked like sleeping buildings suddenly blazed with light as 200 trained warriors grabbed weapons and moved to predetermined defensive positions. The training exercise became real combat with the flip of a switch. Volkov had walked into a trap. He just didn't know it yet. Tower to all units. Sarah's voice carried the authority of someone who had earned the right to be heard. I have eyes on hostile force, multiple elements approaching from northwest. Primary assault appears targeted at communications array and main training grounds. Secondary element moving to flank from the east. She called out coordinates and movement vectors with sniper precision. Every SEAL team leader copied her information and adjusted their positions accordingly. The chaos that Volkov expected became coordinated defense. The first shots cracked through the pre-dawn darkness. Volkov's mercenaries opened fire on what they thought was a communications building. Bullets stitched through walls and windows. Flashbangs detonated. Men who sold violence for money poured into the breach and found nothing. The building was empty, evacuated 30 minutes earlier when Duke first spotted movement in the jungle. Jake Foster's voice came over the radio. Alpha team in position. We have hostile element advancing on communications array. Request permission to engage. Permission granted, Alpha led. Eliminate the threat. The jungle exploded. SEAL Team Alpha had positioned in perfect ambush points around the communications array. When Volkov's mercenaries came through expecting minimal resistance, they walked into a killing field. Precision rifle fire from multiple angles. Grenades dropping into their formation. The kind of coordinated violence that separated professionals from pretenders. The mercenaries broke, scattered, tried to fall back. Sarah tracked their retreat through her scope. Hostile force fragmenting. Multiple elements attempting withdrawal to the northwest. SEAL Team Bravo, You have hostiles moving toward your position. Grid 377448. Bravo copies. We see them engaging. Duke coordinated the larger battle while Sarah provided precision updates. His voice was steady, calm. The sound of a man who had done this before in jungles that bled American boys and taught old lessons in new blood. But Sarah saw what others didn't. Saw Duke's left hand pressed against his chest. Saw the tightness around his eyes. Saw the way his breathing had become shallow and labored. Duke, your heart. I'm fine. Focus on the battle. He wasn't fine. She knew it. He knew she knew it. But there were 80 hostile forces attacking American warriors, and the observation tower was the only position with complete battlefield visibility. Fine would have to wait. The battle raged for 12 minutes. Volkov's mercenaries were good, well-trained, well-equipped, but they were fighting on American ground against American warriors who had been expecting them. The outcome was never in doubt. 17 mercenaries dead, 34 wounded, the rest scattered into the jungle. 0 American casualties. Sarah was calling final position reports when Duke's hands suddenly grabbed her arm. Hard, desperate. Mitchell, RPG team, south side, 300 meters, targeting the tower. She spun, found them through her scope. 2 men with a rocket-propelled grenade launcher, setting up, acquiring target, acquiring them. We need to evacuate now. Duke didn't move. Can't. If we leave the tower, no one has overwatch on the southern approach. Volkov's main force is retreating that way. We abandon this position, they escape. Duke, they're going to kill us. Then you better kill them first. Sarah's hands went to her rifle, the custom M110 that she'd brought from Syria and hadn't fired since 4 civilians died because she trusted intelligence over instinct. The weapon that carried ghosts in every chamber. She raised it, acquired the RPG gunner through the scope, 600 meters, moving target, wind from the east at 8 knots. She calculated the shot automatically. Years of training making numbers appear in her mind like prophecy. Her finger moved to the trigger and froze. The scope filled with the gunner's face. Young, maybe 25. Someone's son, someone's brother. Another human being about to die because she pulled a trigger. 4 civilians, a building collapsing, blood and screaming, and the weight that never left. Mitchell, breathe. Duke's voice. Calm, steady. The same voice that had talked her through CPR while his heart stopped. The same voice that had taught her watchers save. I can't. I see them, the civilians. The ones from Syria. Every time I aim, I see them. Then see me instead. She pulled her eye from the scope, looked at Duke. His face was gray. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His left hand clutched his chest like he was trying to physically hold his heart together. See me, Mitchell. See Torres. See every person you've saved by being up here. See the warriors below us who are depending on you to eliminate that threat so they don't have to die. Duke's breathing was labored, but his voice was iron. You're not in Syria. You're not taking blind shots based on bad intelligence. You can see the target. You know it's hostile. You know if you don't take this shot, that RPG kills American warriors. So breathe, trust your training, and take the damn shot. Sarah looked back through the scope. The RPG gunner was loading the rocket. 5 seconds to launch. She breathed, in through her nose, out through her mouth. Slow, steady. Duke's voice soft now, almost fatherly. Range 610 meters, wind 8 knots east. Target is moving left, led by 2 feet. You have the shot, Marine. I know you do. I have the shot. Then take it. The rifle cracked. The RPG gunner fell. His loader grabbed the weapon, tried to finish the launch. Sarah's second shot dropped him before he could aim. Both men dead. The tower safe. American warriors below, unaware how close they'd come to devastation. Sarah lowered her rifle with shaking hands, looked at Duke. He was smiling, proud, like a father watching his daughter succeed at something she thought impossible. Outstanding shooting, Mitchell. Then his face went white. His eyes rolled back. He collapsed. Chapter 9. The Last Watch. Sarah caught Duke as he fell, lowered him to the platform deck. His pulse was erratic, weak, fading. Not again. Medical, this is Tower. Priority 1 cardiac emergency. Master Chief Brennan, second cardiac event, unresponsive. Need immediate medevac. Tower Medical. Helicopter is engaged, supporting combat operations. ETA 10 minutes. 10 minutes Duke didn't have. Sarah's hands went to his chest. Started compressions. 30 pumps. 2 breaths. Repeat. The same desperate rhythm she'd learned 3 weeks ago when his heart stopped the first time. But this time was different. This time Duke's eyes were open, looking at her, aware, knowing. Stop. His voice was barely a whisper. Let me go, Mitchell. No, not happening. Stay with me, old man. Tommy's here. I can see him. He's saying, it's time. Mission complete. Your mission isn't complete. The battle's still going. I need you. Duke's hand found hers. Stop the compressions. His grip was weak but determined. You don't need me anymore. You proved that. 2 perfect shots under pressure. Saved the tower. Saved our people. Did everything I taught you to do. He coughed. Blood flecked his lips. Tommy's smiling. Says I did good. Says you'll do better. Duke, please, don't do this. Not my choice, kiddo. Heart's done. It gave everything it had. Kept beating long enough to see you become what you were meant to be. His breathing was shallow, fading. Promise me something. Anything. Keep watching. Keep saving. Teach the next ones what I taught you. And Mitchell, forgive yourself for Syria. Those civilians? Not your fault. Never was. Just casualties of war. But the people you save? Those are yours. Own them. Be proud. Sarah's tears fell onto his face. I can't do this without you. You've been doing it for weeks. Just didn't realize it yet. Duke's eyes started to close. Tell Tommy. Tell him I'm sorry it took so long. But I'm ready now. Ready to stand watch. On the other side. Duke, Daniel, Dad. The word came out broken, honest. The truth she'd never said out loud. Don't leave me. His eyes opened one last time, focused on her face, full of pride and love, and the peace that came when warriors finally laid their burdens down. Never leaving, Sarah. I'll be watching, always watching. That's what watchers do. His heart stopped. This time, no amount of CPR would bring it back. Master Chief Daniel Brennan, United States Navy, 62 years old, Vietnam veteran, guardian of the tower, died the way he lived. On watch, Sarah held him as the sun rose over the jungle, held him while the battle ended below, held him while the helicopter finally arrived and medics climbed the ladder and gently told her she had to let him go. She held him until Jake Foster climbed the tower and wrapped his arms around her and let her cry into his shoulder like the daughter losing her father. He saved us, Jake said quietly. All of us. If that RPG had launched, if the tower had fallen, Volkov's forces could have regrouped. But Duke coordinated you through eliminating the threat. His last act of command saved American lives. He was still teaching me, right up to the end. Still coaching, still watching. That's what good fathers do. Sarah pulled back, looked at Jake through tears. We're not related. Blood doesn't make family, Sergeant. Service does. Sacrifice does. Love does. Duke chose you, taught you, died proud of who you became. That makes him your father in every way that matters. The helicopter took Duke's body away. The battle was over. Volkov's forces scattered or captured. American warriors stood victorious. But the observation tower felt empty. Colonel Hawthorne climbed up an hour later, found Sarah sitting with her back against the railing, staring at nothing. I'm sorry about Duke. He was a good man, the best I ever served with. He was ready, said Tommy Collins was waiting for him, said his mission was complete. It was. In the last 3 weeks of his life, Duke Brennan taught a broken warrior how to heal, saved hundreds of lives through you, changed how this entire base thinks about observation and coordination. That's a hell of a legacy for one old man's last watch. Hawthorne pulled something from his pocket, a small wooden box. Duke left instructions. If he didn't make it, I was supposed to give you this. Sarah opened the box. Inside was Duke's Medal of Honor from Vietnam, the highest decoration America could give, purchased with Tommy Collins's blood and Duke's 53 years of carrying the weight. A note was tucked beneath it. Mitchell, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Good. Means I went out doing something that mattered instead of wasting away in some hospital bed. This medal was supposed to honor what I did in Vietnam, but all it ever did was remind me of what I didn't do. Saving Tommy, being the spotter he deserved, earning the peace that only comes when you've paid your debts. You gave me that peace by letting me watch over you, by learning what I had to teach, by proving that broken people make the best guardians because we know exactly what we're guarding against. This medal belongs to you now. Not because you earned it in combat, but because you earned it in service. Every life you save from this tower, every warning you call, every warrior you keep alive. That's what this medal was always supposed to represent. Wear it with pride, kiddo. Tommy and I will be watching from wherever old snipers go when their watch finally ends. Keep your eyes sharp. Keep your heart open. Keep saving people. That's an order. Semper Fi, Duke. Sarah closed the box, held it against her chest. Let the tears fall freely now. What do I do now, Colonel? Same thing Duke did. You climb this tower every day. You watch over warriors. You save the ones who need saving, and you honor him by becoming the guardian he trained you to be. I can't fill his boots. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to walk your own path wearing the lessons he taught you. Hawthorne stood. The tower needs an observer, Sergeant. Personnel is recommending you for permanent assignment as senior observer. It comes with a promotion. Master Chief Sarah Mitchell has a nice ring to it. I don't know if I'm ready. Duke thought you were ready 3 weeks ago. That's good enough for me. Hawthorne left her alone on the tower. The jungle spread in every direction, green and vast and full of warriors who needed watching, who needed warning, who needed someone standing 40 feet up, seeing what mattered and calling what needed to be said. Sarah stood, walked to the railing, looked out over Fort Sherman with eyes that had learned to see more than targets, that had learned to see people worth saving, purpose worth serving, peace worth earning. She raised Duke's Medal of Honor to her lips, kissed it once. Thank you, Dad, for teaching me, for trusting me, for showing me that watchers save. The wind carried her words into the jungle, carried them to wherever old warriors watched from, carried them to Tommy Collins and Duke Brennan standing together, finally free of weight and guilt in 53 years of ghosts. Sarah Mitchell, Master Chief, United States Navy, Senior Observer, took her position on the tower. The watch continued. It always would, because some towers were built to see the enemy, others were built to see the warrior within, and the very best ones taught broken people that the highest form of service wasn't killing for your country. It was watching over it, saving it, one morning at a time. Some towers stand forever. Some watches never end. And the greatest warriors teach us that service outlives the servant. Chapter 10, Full Honors. The ceremony began at 1,000 hours under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. Master Chief Daniel Brennan's casket rested on a caisson draped with the American flag. 50 stars, 13 stripes. The colors that meant something to men like Duke, who had given everything to protect what those colors represented. Fort Sherman's parade ground had been transformed. 200 service members in dress uniforms stood at attention. SEAL teams, Marine reconnaissance units, base personnel, every warrior who had trained under Duke's watch or been saved by his coordination. Sarah Mitchell stood in the front row wearing her dress blues and the weight of a world that suddenly felt much heavier without the old man who had taught her how to carry it. Colonel Hawthorne delivered the eulogy. Master Chief Daniel Brennan served his country for 42 years. 3 tours in Vietnam, decorated for valor, Medal of Honor recipient. But those facts don't tell you who Duke was. They tell you what he did. The colonel paused, looked out over the assembled warriors. Who Duke was can only be understood through the people he touched. The young Marines he taught to survive in jungles that killed the unprepared. The SEAL candidates he trained to become weapons. The countless warriors he watched over from an observation tower 40 feet up, calling warnings that saved lives we'll never be able to count. Sarah felt tears tracking down her face. She didn't wipe them away. Tears at a warrior's funeral weren't weakness. They were respect made visible. Duke carried weight most of us can't imagine. 53 years of ghosts from choices made in combat. 53 years of wondering if he'd done right by the people who depended on him. And in his final weeks, he found peace. Not by running from that weight, but by teaching someone else how to carry it forward. Hawthorne's eyes found Sarah. Sergeant Mitchell, would you come forward, please? Sarah's legs moved automatically, training overriding the grief that wanted to root her in place. She walked to the podium on muscle memory and protocol. Hawthorne held a wooden box, the same one Duke had left with instructions, the one containing his Medal of Honor and the letter that had broken her heart and rebuilt it stronger. Master Chief Brennan left specific instructions. He wanted Sergeant Mitchell to receive his Medal of Honor, not as an inheritance, but as a commission, a passing of responsibility from one watcher to the next. Sarah took the box with shaking hands. He also wanted me to read something he wrote, his last will and testament for the observation tower and everyone who will stand watch there after him. Hawthorne unfolded a letter, worn, written in Duke's precise handwriting. To whoever reads this, if you're hearing these words, I'm gone. Good. Means I didn't waste away feeling sorry for myself. Means I went out serving something bigger than my own comfort. The parade ground was silent, 200 warriors listening to the voice of an old man who understood what they were only beginning to learn. The observation tower at Fort Sherman isn't just a structure, it's a promise that someone will always be watching, that warriors in the field will never be alone, that when chaos comes and technology fails and plans fall apart, there will be a voice on the radio calling warnings in coordinates and hope. Sarah's vision blurred. I served 42 years trying to earn the Medal of Honor they gave me for leaving my best friend to die in Vietnam. Took me 5 decades to understand I had it backward. The medal wasn't payment for Tommy Collins. It was a reminder that sometimes you have to let good people go to save others. That command means carrying impossible weight. That being haunted means you're human. Hawthorne's voice was thick with emotion. Sergeant Mitchell taught me I could let the weight go, not by forgetting, but by watching over the next generation so they don't have to carry what I carried. She saved my life twice. Once when my heart stopped. Again when she showed me my death could mean something if I spent my last days teaching instead of regretting. The colonel looked up from the letter. That's what I ask of everyone who hears this. Teach, watch, save. Don't let my generation's mistakes become your generation's ghosts. And for God's sake, don't wait 53 years to forgive yourself for being human in impossible situations. Hawthorne folded the letter. There's one more thing Duke wanted. He pulled out a second document, official orders. Effective immediately, Sergeant Sarah Mitchell is promoted to Master Chief, United States Navy, with permanent assignment as Senior Observer, Fort Sherman, Panama. Additionally, the observation tower will be officially designated the Brennan Memorial Watchtower, a reminder that the best warriors don't always carry rifles. Sometimes they carry responsibility for keeping others alive. Sarah stood at attention as Hawthorne pinned a new rank insignia to her uniform. Master Chief, the same rank Duke had worn with such pride and purpose. The honor guard fired 3 volleys, 21 shots echoing across the parade ground. The bugler played taps, that mournful melody that had sent warriors to rest since the Civil War. And then, slowly, carefully, with the reverence due to a man who had given everything, they folded the flag from Duke's casket, 13 folds, each one representing something. Honor, duty, sacrifice. The principles that men like Duke built their lives around. Colonel Hawthorne presented the flag to Sarah. On behalf of the President of the United States and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's service to country and corps. Sarah took the flag, held it against her chest, felt the weight of cloth and meaning, and the understanding that Duke wasn't really gone. He just moved to a different kind of watch. One that didn't require ladders or binoculars or a beating heart. One that lived in everyone he'd taught and every life he'd saved and every person who would climb that tower and remember that watcher's save. Jake Foster approached after the ceremony. His eyes were red, his jaw was tight. The look of a man holding emotions in check through pure discipline. He would have been proud of you today, Master Chief. The rank still felt strange, too big, too much responsibility. I'm not ready for this, Jake. Neither was Duke when they put him in charge of training the next generation. Neither was I when they made me a team leader. Nobody's ever ready for the weight until they're already carrying it. He paused. But you're not carrying it alone. Every SEAL on this base has your back. Every Marine, every sailor who understands that you saved 2 lives while doing CPR and eliminated an RPG team under fire. You've earned the respect. Now you just have to accept it. Ryan Torres appeared beside Jake, the young SEAL who had fallen through unstable ground and learned humility the hard way. His leg had healed. The scar on his pride had healed deeper. Master Chief Mitchell. He came to attention, saluted with precision. I wanted to thank you again for saving my life, for coordinating my rescue, and for teaching me that ego gets people killed, but discipline keeps them alive. Sarah returned the salute. You learned the lesson, Torres. That's what matters. There's something else, ma'am. The SEAL teams took a vote. We want to request that all future training operations include mandatory coordination with the observation tower. Not as backup, as primary. We want the Brennan method to be the standard. Sarah looked between Jake and Ryan, saw the sincerity, saw the understanding that Duke's last watch had changed how an entire generation thought about service and support, and the truth that warriors came in many forms. I'll make it happen. And Torres, Duke would have been proud of who you became. Because of him, ma'am, and because of you. Chapter 11. Justice and Choices. Viktor Volkov was captured 3 days after the battle, wounded, abandoned by his surviving mercenaries, found hiding in a drainage culvert 15 miles from Fort Sherman by a Marine patrol that had been tracking his blood trail through the jungle. They brought him back in chains. Sarah watched from their observation tower as the helicopter landed and military police escorted Volkov to the detention facility. Even from 40 feet up and 300 meters away, she could see his eyes. Cold, empty. The look of a man who sold violence for money and felt nothing for the lives he destroyed. The intelligence debriefing took 2 weeks. Volkov talked, not out of remorse or cooperation, but because his employers had abandoned him and professional mercenaries understood when the contract was void. What he revealed was worse than anyone expected. The Sinaloa cartel hadn't just wanted intelligence on Fort Sherman's defenses, they wanted proof of concept. If Volkov could successfully attack a major U.S. military installation, the cartel could use the same tactics against DEA facilities, border patrol stations, and counter-narcotics operations throughout Central America. Fort Sherman was supposed to be the demonstration. It failed because an old man with a bad heart and a young woman with ghosts from Syria had stood watch and seen what others missed and called warnings that turned an attack into an ambush. Because watchers saved. The military tribunal was held at Fort Sherman, maximum security, media blackout, the kind of justice that happened quietly but thoroughly. Sarah was called to testify. She sat in the witness box wearing her dress blues with Duke's Medal of Honor on her chest, an honor Hawthorne had authorized, not for wearing in normal duties, but for occasions like this when her testimony needed the weight of everything Duke had taught her. The prosecutor was a Navy JAG officer with 20 years of experience putting bad people in prison. Master Chief Mitchell, please describe the events of the morning of the attack. Sarah spoke clearly, precisely, the way Duke had taught her to communicate under pressure. Master Chief Brennan and I were on watch at the observation tower. At 0347 hours, we spotted hostile forces approaching the base perimeter, approximately 80 personnel in military formation. We immediately alerted base command and began coordinating defensive response. And during this coordination, what role did Master Chief Brennan play? He provided overall battlefield coordination while I called specific target coordinates and movement vectors. His experience and tactical knowledge were critical to organizing an effective defense. Master Chief Mitchell, we've heard testimony that Master Chief Brennan suffered a fatal cardiac event during the battle, yet coordination continued without interruption. How was that possible? Sarah met the prosecutor's eyes. Because he taught me everything he knew. Every procedure, every protocol, every instinct that separates good coordination from great coordination. When his heart failed, his training continued through me. And the hostile forces targeting the observation tower with an RPG, you eliminated that threat personally, correct? Yes, sir. You're a qualified sniper, but you'd been serving in an observation role for over 2 years. Wasn't it difficult to transition back to lethal force? Sarah chose her words carefully. It was necessary, sir. The tower provides critical visibility for the entire base. If that position had been destroyed, American warriors would have died. Master Chief Brennan coached me through the shots. Even while dying, he was still teaching, still watching, still ensuring the mission succeeded. The prosecutor nodded. Let the record show that Master Chief Mitchell's actions, under the guidance and training of Master Chief Brennan, directly prevented significant American casualties and turned a potentially devastating attack into a decisive victory. He turned to face Volkov, and the man who planned that attack sits before us, a mercenary who sold his services to narcotics traffickers, who led 80 men against American service members, who would have killed as many as possible if 2 dedicated watchers hadn't been standing guard. The verdict was never in doubt. Viktor Volkov was sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. His captured mercenaries received similar sentences. The Sinaloa cartel learned that attacking American military installations was a very fast way to make the United States prioritize your destruction. After the tribunal, Sarah found Colonel Hawthorne waiting outside the courtroom. Well done, Master Chief. Your testimony was the final nail in Volkov's coffin. Just telling the truth, sir. There's something else we need to discuss. Walk with me. They walked through Fort Sherman as the afternoon sun turned the jungle canopy golden green. Warriors trained in the distance. The sounds of preparation for conflicts that were always coming. You've received job offers, Hawthorne said. Several of them, Joint Special Operations Command wants you as a training coordinator for observer-sniper integration. Marine Special Operations Command wants you developing new coordination protocols. Naval Special Warfare wants you at their headquarters designing next-generation watch procedures. Sarah had seen the official messages. Formal offers with impressive titles and significant promotions in assignments that would take her away from the tower. What do you want me to do, Colonel? That's not my decision, Master Chief. It's yours. Those are career-defining opportunities. The kind of assignments that lead to higher rank and greater influence and a legacy that extends across the entire military. They stopped at the base of the observation tower, 40 feet of metal framework rising into the sky, the Brennan Memorial Watchtower, a promise that someone would always be watching. But, Hawthorne continued, there's also value in staying here, in being the constant, in standing watch day after day over warriors who need someone seeing what they can't see and calling warnings they can't call themselves. That's not glamorous. It won't get you Admiral stars, but it might save more lives than any headquarters posting ever could. Sarah looked up at the tower, saw the platform where Duke had died in her arms, where she'd learned to be something more than a sniper with ghosts, where broken people came to heal by protecting others. I need to make some calls, sir. Take your time, Master Chief. Whatever you decide, you'll have my full support. Chapter 12, The Choice. Sarah made her decision on the observation tower. Where else would she make it? She sat in Duke's chair, the one that was now her chair, the one that would be someone else's chair eventually when her watch ended and the next generation took over. Jake Foster climbed the ladder at her request. You wanted to see me, Master Chief? I want your honest opinion on something, Jake. No politics. No telling me what you think I want to hear, just straight truth. Always, ma'am. If I leave this tower for a headquarters assignment, who takes over? Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. We get a replacement, someone qualified, someone competent. They do the job by the manual and the metrics and probably do it well enough. But they wouldn't be you. They wouldn't have Duke's training. They wouldn't understand that watching isn't about logging coordinates and monitoring radio traffic. It's about seeing the kid who's about to make a fatal mistake and calling the warning that saves him. It's about knowing when to trust your gut over intelligence. It's about being the voice that warriors depend on when everything else fails. Sarah nodded slowly. That's what I thought you'd say. Master Chief, those headquarters jobs are incredible opportunities. Career advancement, influence across the entire military. You could shape how every base and every service thinks about observation and coordination. That's important work. But, Jake smiled faintly, but the warriors who train here don't need doctrine written in Washington. They need someone standing 40 feet up with eyes that never miss anything and a voice that calls warnings before disaster strikes. They need you, here, now. The same way Duke knew they needed him even when his heart was failing. I'm staying. I know. I could see it in your face when you called me up here. You've already decided. You just needed someone to confirm it was the right choice. Was it? Yes, ma'am. Absolutely yes. Sarah pulled out her phone, composed messages to Joint Special Operations Command, Marine Special Operations Command, and Naval Special Warfare. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm honored to have been considered. However, I'm declining all offers. My place is here at Fort Sherman, standing on watch over the warriors who train and serve. This is where I'm needed most. This is where I can do the most good. Respectfully, Master Chief Sarah Mitchell. She hit send on all three, felt the weight lift. The tower was home. This was her mission. Everything else was just noise. There's one more thing, Master Chief, Jake said. The SEAL teams are planning something for the 6-month anniversary of Duke's death, a permanent memorial. We wanted your input on the design. What kind of memorial? You'll see. Just trust us. Duke taught us well. Chapter 13, 6 months later. The memorial plaque was mounted at the base of the observation tower on a cool morning in December. Bronze, 2 feet wide, 3 feet tall, engraved with words that captured everything Duke Brennan had been and everything he'd taught. Master Chief Daniel Duke Brennan, United States Navy, 1963 to 25. Vietnam, 1968 to 1971, Fort Sherman, 2024 to 225. The first watch and the last watch. A warrior who learned that the greatest victory is not in taking a life, but in saving one. His legacy stands eternal in all who watch from this tower. Snipers kill, watchers save. Stand your watch with honor. Sarah stood before the plaque with her hand pressed against the bronze, felt the metal warming under her palm, felt Duke's presence in the tower above and the jungle around and the warriors who trained under his methods. "We chose bronze," Jake said beside her, "because it won't rust or fade. This memorial will stand as long as the tower stands, probably longer." He would have hated being memorialized. He would have loved that his lessons live on. That's different. The base had gathered for the unveiling. 200 warriors in formation, Colonel Hawthorne, the SEAL teams, Marine reconnaissance, everyone who had served with Duke or been saved by his coordination. Ryan Torres stepped forward with a wreath, white flowers, the kind placed at memorials for the honored dead. "Master Chief Brennan saved my life by teaching me that discipline matters more than ego. I'm alive today because he saw my mistake before I made it and called the warning that kept me from dying stupid." Ryan's voice was steady, strong. "This memorial isn't about remembering him. It's about continuing his mission. Every person who reads these words will understand that watching over others isn't a backup job. It's the most important job, because watchers save." He placed the wreath at the base of the plaque. One by one, warriors stepping forward. Left coins, challenge coins from their units, a SEAL tradition that meant you recognize another warrior's sacrifice. Sarah watched them come. Watched young men and women who would go on to serve in dangerous places, honor an old man who had spent his last days making sure they'd be ready when danger came. This was Duke's real legacy, not medals or promotions or headquarters assignments. People, warriors who understood that service meant more than just pulling triggers, that watching over others was how you honored the ones you couldn't save. After the ceremony, Sarah climbed to the observation platform, found something waiting on her chair, a package, wrapped in brown paper, her name written in handwriting she didn't recognize. She opened it carefully. Inside was a photograph, black and white, worn. Two young Marines grinning at the camera in Vietnam jungle. Duke and Tommy Collins. The same photo Duke had carried for 53 years. A note was attached. "Master Chief Mitchell, my name is Thomas Collins, Jr. You never met my father. He died in Vietnam in 1971, killed during a mission where Master Chief Brennan had to choose between saving him or completing the objective that saved 20 other Marines. For 53 years, Duke sent letters to my family, every Christmas, every anniversary of my father's death, apologizing, explaining, carrying the weight of that choice. This year, for the first time, no letter came. When I learned he'd passed, I understood why. Duke finally found peace, finally forgave himself for doing what had to be done. I'm sending you this photograph because Duke's last letter, written before he died, said you were carrying similar weight, that you blamed yourself for civilians who died in Syria, that you needed to learn what took him 53 years to understand. Some choices don't have good options, only necessary ones. My father understood when he told Duke to complete the mission. He knew his death would save others. That's not tragedy. That's heroism. Your 4 civilians? Not your fault. War's fault. Bad intelligence's fault. The enemy's fault for using human shields, but not yours. Duke forgave himself before he died. My family forgave him decades ago. Now it's your turn. Forgive yourself. Honor the dead by saving the living. Stand your watch. My father would have been proud to know someone like you carried on Duke's legacy. Semper Fi, Thomas Collins, Jr. Sarah held the photograph. Looked at young Duke and young Tommy, warriors who had paid the price so others could live. "Thank you," she whispered. To Tommy, to Duke, to whatever higher power had brought them together and taught her that redemption came through service. The radio crackled. "Tower, this is TOC. We have a new arrival for observer training. Sending him up to you for orientation." "Copy. TOC, send him up." Sarah set the photograph on a small shelf Duke had installed. A place of honor, a reminder that ghosts could be teachers instead of tormentors if you let them. Boots on the ladder, someone climbing. She turned to see who the next generation would be. A young man emerged onto the platform. 23, 24 maybe. Hispanic features, dark hair kept in Marine regulation high and tight, eyes that looked older than his face, much older. "Corporal David Chen reporting for observer training, Master Chief." "At ease, Corporal. Welcome to the tower." Sarah gestured to the spare chair. "Coffee?" "Yes, ma'am. Thank you." She poured 2 cups, handed him one, settled into her chair, studied him with eyes that had learned to see past uniforms and rank to the person underneath. "Why did you request observer training, Chen?" He was quiet for a moment, choosing words, deciding how much truth to share. I had a bad operation in Africa, ma'am. Force recon. We were supporting a counterterrorism mission. Intelligence said the compound was clear of civilians. It wasn't. When the shooting started, I saw them. A woman, two children, caught in crossfire. I tried to call ceasefire, but the radio was jammed. By the time we secured the area, they were dead. Sarah's chest tightened, recognized the weight in his voice, the guilt in his eyes, the ghost of civilians who died when warriors did everything right, and it still wasn't enough. Investigation cleared you? Yes, ma'am. Intelligence failure. Enemy using human shields. Everything by the book. But I see their faces every night. I hear the children crying. I can't. He stopped, composed himself. I requested observer training because I thought maybe if I could see the whole battlefield, see things before they went wrong, I could prevent what happened to me from happening to someone else. Sarah set down her coffee, walked to the railing, looked out over Fort Sherman, where warriors trained and learned and prepared for the chaos that was coming. Corporal Chen, I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to believe it at first, but eventually you will. Ma'am, what happened in Africa wasn't your fault. You followed orders, trusted intelligence, did everything a Marine is supposed to do. Sometimes the wars put good people in impossible situations. Sometimes civilians die even when warriors try their hardest to prevent it. That's not failure. That's the cost of war. And it's not a cost you chose. It's a cost the enemy chose when they used human shields. Master Chief, with respect, I should have seen them, should have called the warning sooner. You're a force recon Marine, not God. You can't see through walls. You can't predict every variable. You can only do your best with the information you have and live with the outcomes. Sarah turned to face him. But here's what you can do. You can learn from it. You can honor those civilians by making sure no one else has to carry what you're carrying. You can climb this tower every day and watch over warriors so they have the information they need to make good choices. You can become a guardian instead of a weapon. Chen's eyes glistened. Is that what you did, ma'am? Syria, 2023. 4 civilians dead when a building collapsed after I eliminated a high-value target. Investigation cleared me. Didn't clear my conscience. So I came here. Met an old man named Duke who taught me that carrying weight meant I was human, not that I was wrong. He taught me that watchers save. That standing 40 feet up, seeing what others miss, and calling warnings that prevent death is how you honor the ones you couldn't save. Did it work? Does the weight go away? Sarah smiled faintly, sad, knowing. The weight doesn't go away, Chen. It just becomes bearable. You learn to carry it. You find purpose in making sure others don't have to pick up new weight. And eventually, you sleep through the night without screaming. That's not forgetting. That's healing. Will you teach me? That's why you're here. Sarah pulled up the observation protocols on her tablet, started with the basics: grid coordinates, communication frequencies, emergency procedures, the technical foundation that every observer needed. But she also taught the deeper lessons, the ones Duke had taught her, the ones that couldn't be found in manuals or regulations. First rule of the tower, she said, we see everything. We say what matters. We keep people alive, in that order. Yes, ma'am. Second rule, snipers kill, watchers save. You were a weapon. Now you're a guardian. That's a promotion, not a demotion. Own it. Yes, ma'am. Third rule, the warriors below us are depending on us to be their eyes when they can't see, their voice when they can't communicate, their warning when danger comes. That responsibility is heavier than any rifle you ever carried. But it's also more important. Accept the weight. Learn to carry it. And when you can't carry it alone anymore, reach out. I'll be here. Chen stood, came to attention, saluted with precision. Thank you, Master Chief, for understanding, for teaching, for giving me a chance to serve in a way that might help me sleep again. Sarah returned the salute. You're going to be fine, Corporal. I was where you are 2 years ago. Duke pulled me out. Now I'm pulling you out. That's how this works. That's how the watch continues. Master Chief, can I ask you something? Anything. The photograph on the shelf, the 2 Marines, who are they? Sarah looked at the photo. Duke and Tommy, frozen in time, young and alive and grinning like they'd live forever. That's Master Chief Duke Brennan and Lance Corporal Tommy Collins. Vietnam, 1971. Duke had to make an impossible choice. Completed his mission, lost his best friend, carried the weight for 53 years until he learned that being haunted meant he was human, Not that he was wrong. What happened to him? He died right here on this platform 6 months ago. Heart attack during a battle. Spent his last breath teaching me how to eliminate a threat that would have killed American warriors. He died doing what he loved, watching over people, saving lives, making sure the next generation learned from his mistakes instead of repeating them. Chen studied the photograph. He sounds like a good man, the best I ever knew, and everything I teach you came from him. So in a way, Duke's still here, still watching, still teaching, still making sure watchers save. The sun climbed higher. Training exercises began across Fort Sherman, SEAL teams running obstacle courses, Marine reconnaissance navigating jungle terrain, young warriors preparing for wars that were always coming. And on the observation tower 40 feet up, 2 Marines stood watch, one teaching, one learning, both carrying weight that would never fully disappear, both finding purpose in protecting others, both honoring the dead by saving the living. Sarah's radio crackled with routine traffic. She responded with the calm professionalism that Duke had taught her, saw a SEAL team member favoring his right ankle, and called the training supervisor to get him checked before minor injury became major, coordinated a helicopter approach for a medical supply delivery, logged weather conditions and visibility updates. All the small things that kept people alive and safe and ready when real danger came. Corporal Chen watched, learned, asked good questions, showed the instincts of someone who would be excellent at this work once the weight became bearable and the ghosts became teachers instead of tormentors. As afternoon turned to evening, Sarah looked out over the jungle, saw Fort Sherman preparing for night, saw the tower's shadow stretching across the training grounds like a promise. Someone would always be watching. Someone would always be calling warnings. Someone would always be standing guard over warriors who needed eyes that never closed and voices ready to save lives. That someone was her now. And when her watch ended, it would be Chen or someone like him. Another broken warrior learning to heal by protecting others. Another ghost carrier finding redemption through service. The watch would never end. It couldn't, because some towers were built to see the enemy. Others were built to see the warrior within. And the very best ones taught broken people that the highest form of service wasn't killing for your country. It was watching over it, saving it, one warning at a time, one life at a time, one watch at a time, forever. Epilogue, the Eternal Watch. 10 years later, the observation tower still stood 40 feet above Fort Sherman's jungle. The bronze memorial plaque at its base had weathered to a patina that made the words even more striking. Master Chief Sarah Mitchell, now 40 years old and considered the finest observer coordinator in naval special warfare, climbed the ladder for her daily watch. Corporal David Chen, now Master Chief Chen, climbed beside her. He had trained under Sarah for 5 years before taking his own permanent assignment at a different base. Today he was visiting, coming home. The tower looks the same, he said, settling into what had once been Duke's chair. Towers don't change, people do. Sarah poured coffee from the camp stove. Still the same ritual, still the same purpose. How's your watch going at Coronado? Good. Busy. Training a new generation of SEAL observers, using the Brennan method. Every base in naval special warfare uses it now. Duke's protocols are doctrine. He'd hate that, being doctrine. He'd love that lives are being saved. That's different. They sat in comfortable silence. 2 warriors who had learned from the same teacher, who carried similar weights, who had found redemption in watching over others. Master Chief Mitchell, Sarah turned. A young woman stood at the top of the ladder. 25 years old, Latina features, corporal rank insignia, eyes that looked haunted. Corporal Rivera reporting for observer training, ma'am. Sarah smiled, gestured to the spare chair. Welcome to the tower, Corporal. Coffee? Yes, ma'am, thank you. As Sarah poured, she caught Chen's eye, saw him smile, saw him understand that the cycle continued, that broken people kept climbing this tower seeking purpose, that watchers saved not just warriors below, but watchers themselves. Corporal Rivera, why did you request observer training? The young woman's voice was steady, but her eyes told the story of ghosts not yet taught to teach instead of torment. I had a bad operation, ma'am. Sarah listened, heard the familiar story. Different war, different circumstances, same weight. When Rivera finished, Sarah stood, walked to the railing, looked out over Fort Sherman, where a new generation trained. Corporal, I'm going to tell you something. The words were Duke's. The lesson was Tommy Collins. The voice was Sarah's. But the truth was eternal. Watchers save. And on the observation tower 40 feet above Panama's jungle, the watch continued. It always would. Because some legacies aren't written in medals or promotions or headquarters postings. They're written in lives saved, in warriors trained, and broken people who learn to heal by standing watch over others. They're written in every warning called, in every disaster prevented, and every young warrior who lived to see another day because someone 40 feet up saw what they couldn't see and said what needed to be said. That was Duke Brennan's legacy. That was Sarah Mitchell's mission. That would be David Chen's and Maria Rivera's and every person who came after. Forever and ever. One watch at a time, the tower stood, the watchers watched. And somewhere in whatever place old warriors go, when their watch finally ends, Duke Brennan and Tommy Collins looked down and smiled. Because their boys and girls were keeping the faith, standing the watch, saving the lives that mattered. That's all warriors ever really wanted. To know their service mattered. To know their lessons lived on. To know that even after death, they still protected the living. The sun set over Fort Sherman. The tower's shadow stretched long. And 400 feet away, engraved in bronze, Duke's final words gleamed in the fading light. Snipers, kill. Watchers, save. Stand your watch with honor. The watch continued. It always would. The end.